rebuttal is what I like to call the real debate segment of the competition. This is where the teams will not be relying on any prepared research or speech, but they will be countering what the opponent has said. So I always look forward to the rebuttal aspect of the debate. For the rebuttal, the lead speakers, meaning the first speakers, will present the rebuttal and they will each speak for 3 minutes. Alright, so usually this is really the format for the debate. Following the rebuttals, our judges will be taken by the judging assistant to a private location where they will deliberate on the proceedings and will come back, usually within 15 minutes or 15 to 20 minutes, come back with the results. During the time that the judges are away, we, the audience, will engage in our own debate on the topic, so I'll be able to hear your views. We won't be critiquing the debaters or judging them, that's not our position, but we will have our own, we'll be able to give our own views, whether we are for the topic, we agree with it, or we are proposing it. Okay, so this, in summary, is what is the format of the debate for today. Before I introduce the stars of the debate, or our debaters, I will introduce to you our esteemed judges. And today I see that our chief judge, since he sat in the city, will assume the position as Mr. Firelander. All right, Mr. Firelander is the the judges they're volunteering and they're giving us of their time, so we really appreciate it. Mr. Lander is a registered nurse with a bachelor's in nursing. He's the president of the National Youth Council and the local president of the JCI Dominica. He was a National Youth Parliamentarian in the 2022 National Youth Parliament and he's reigning regional public speaking champion. So you know he's very well qualified to judge this debate today. Thank you very much, Mr. Firelander, for giving up your time today. Let us welcome. Mr. Lander will be assisted by 2 other judges. We have Dr. Kimon Joseph, who is the head at the UWI Open Campus Dominica and a doctoral candidate in educational leadership. She holds a master's in communication studies from the University of Leeds and a bachelor's in mass communication from SUNY Plattsburgh. Thank you very much, Dr. Kimon Joseph, and welcome. And last but not least, we have Ms. Janae Jackson, who holds a bachelor's of law degree from the University of the West Indies, Mona campus, and a legal education certificate from the Norman Manley Law School. She's a licensed legal practitioner at the Dominica Bar. Janae currently serves on the executive of the 6th Form Cicero Singers. She has earned numerous titles in singing competitions, including the Calypso Monarch competition, DBS Christmas Song Contest, and the Rex Nettleford Choir Festival in Jamaica, among others. Janae is also a member of the Dominica Bar Association Choir. We welcome Janae. And you can see that from Janae's background that she's also well qualified to deliberate on the topic of discussion today. So we thank you all 3 judges and welcome you here. Now we move on to our debaters. All right. From the proposing team, ORION Academy, we have Mr. Jazz Maxwell, no stranger to this debate. Jazz I didn't have time to come down, he knows what he has to do already. Okay, so the debaters, as I call you and I introduce you, I'll ask you to just come forward and take your seats. I would say at the bar table, which is what we normally say in court, but I'll just say come take your seats at the table. Okay, it's not a bar table, debating table. Alright, so we have Jazz Maxwell, who is the 5th form of the ORION Academy, and usually we introduce the students with a little bit more information about themselves, and I asked them today, apart from the school activities, schoolwork and debating, what do they do during the downtime? And Jazz said that during his downtime he enjoys reading, no surprise here, and he's also a very ardent volleyball player, and he's part of the R&D Volleyball Academy. So welcome, Jazz Maxwell. Jazz is being supported by his teammate, Miss Madelia Fountain. Madelia is a 4th form of the ORION Academy, and during her downtime, Madelia enjoys baking. And I told her I'll do a little advertisement for her free of charge. I won't charge her for that. She has a very small business, Madly Sucres. okay, where she sells cookies, brownies, and she's looking forward in the future to venture into making cereal bars. All right, so very well done, Nadia. She's also a very avid sportswoman, does volleyball as well as netball, and she enjoys nature, so there is no surprise that she's a member of the 4-H club at the school. From the opposing team, the Portsmouth Secondary School, our first speaker is Ms. Malia Etienne, who is a performer. Welcome. Malia enjoys dancing, and I asked whether she's in any dance group. She said she dances she's in a dance group at her church. And she also enjoys crocheting, which she finds very soothing, very calming, and she does that during her downtime. The second speaker for the Portsmouth Secondary School is Ms. Roxanne Andrew. Roxanne is also a performer. And she plays netball during her downtime. She plays netball. And she's also a budding writer. Right? She says she doesn't. So far, she has nothing in print or nothing that has been published. But she says she does it for fun, and we're looking forward to seeing her name on the bestseller list somewhere at some point. Thank you very much. All right. So I think that completes all of our introductions, and we will now move swiftly into the debate. Again, just to remind you, and for those who are just joining us, the topic for our debate today is Dominica's judicial system requires significant reform to ensure equal access to justice. Proposing this topic is the ORION Academy, and the team that's opposing the topic is the Portsmouth Secondary School. We will now call on the first speaker from the proposing team, Mr. Jazz Maxwell. Jazz has 10 minutes to prepare his arguments, and so we just welcome him to the podium.
Distinguished judges, Madam Moderator, ladies and gentlemen of the audience and media, and my competent opponents, good afternoon and welcome. My team and I stand before you today in full support of the motion that Dominica's judicial system requires significant reform in order to allow equal access to justice. Before proceeding with our arguments, certain key terms imperative to the discussion must be defined. According to the Oxford Dictionary, judicial system refers to the system of courts and legal institutions responsible for interpreting and applying the laws in a country. Justice, as the Oxford Dictionary also defines it, is the fair treatment of people following the law. Note, however, to claim that the system is just, the same opportunities must be afforded to everyone. The United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, has defined access to justice as the ability of individuals to seek and obtain a remedy for grievances through formal or informal justice institutions. This means, competent opponents, that all citizens should have an equal and fair chance to seek legal assistance and protection regardless of status or affluence. Honorable judges, I would love nothing more than for this to be the reality of the country that I live in today. But sadly, it is blatantly obvious that this is not the case. My teammate and I will present 7 areas where there is a dire lack of equity and a serious need for reform in Dominica's judicial system. The first 4 that I will highlight are based on the fact that the judicial system in Dominica faces significant delays, which denies its most vulnerable citizens their constitutional right to the timely administration of justice. This is due to 1. Attorney negligence, 2. Lengthy processing time, 3. Failure to prioritize digitization, and 4. Severe understaffing and incompetence. The remaining three, which my teammates will discuss, address the lack of accessibility and the problems with legal aid. Madam Moderator, it is worth noting that these are the 7 areas of inequity that we could reasonably fit in the 17 minutes allotted to us. Unfortunately, this systemic problem is so deep that there are many more, but we wanted to not only focus on the problems, but as the motion suggests, on equitable reform as well. One of the greatest obstacles preventing equal access to justice is the tremendous backlog of cases in Dominica. My team and I visited the High Court in Rosum, where we interviewed Her Ladyship Justice Zainab Jawab Alami and another attorney who chose to remain anonymous. Justice Alami expressed serious concern about the backlog of cases in Dominica. She stated, and I quote, "I have seen cases that started since 2010 and are still ongoing. Honorable judges, that is 15 years. Imagine waiting 15 years for a matter to be resolved. Competent opponents, you know what is even worse? Sometimes the accused are remanded for all those years before they receive a fair trial." The attorney present at our interview gave the shocking example of one man who was remanded for over 7 years with no fair trial. His preliminary investigation was repeatedly restarted because the first magistrate resigned, a second magistrate began the process but then they retired, then a third magistrate began the process but the contract was not renewed. After all that, the court finally decided to dismiss the poor man's case. Magwesa, Prime Minister William Gladstone said, "Justice delayed is justice denied." These delays can be attributed to many factors, but I will discuss 4. First, the reality is, Madam Moderator, at times attorneys are simply not diligent. They miss deadlines and fail to be adequately prepared. As a result, they are constantly petitioning for continuances and wasting the court's time. But you know who ultimately suffers the most? Their clients. The reality is that too many private attorneys often give their full, undivided attention to the cases of the highest paid, highest profile clients, while the less important clients, the ones who are not as rich or as popular, receive substandard service. Competent opponents, I can see you thinking, but ORION, the state cannot control negligent lawyers. Yes, it can. According to the and you know who says so. According to the Dominica Bar Association, in an article from April 2024 on Dominica News Online, the Bar Association recommends the implementation of stricter sanctions for untimely prosecution and absenteeism for defense counsel. This particular reform would greatly help to curb attorney negligence and protect the most vulnerable clients from ridiculously long delays. Fair, equal access for all clients. Capable opponents, this reform is a must. Secondly, lengthy processing time is a significant issue. According to the Dominica Bar Association, one reform that can be implemented that will at least speed up the preliminary hearings of criminal cases is increased training and resources for the use of paper committers. Instead of holding a full and lengthy preliminary inquiry, a procedure that often gets rescheduled for a variety of reasons, a procedure where the magistrate is mandated by law to take their own, more often than not, handwritten notes, a paper committal with written statements and documentary evidence can be submitted to the magistrate, and then the magistrate decides whether there is sufficient evidence to stand trial in a higher court. A time-saving procedure indeed. Competent opponents, this reform is a must. The third obstacle is that our courts are still not fully digitized. Physical case files are unnecessarily slow and unreliable. Competent opponents, did you know that during Hurricane Maria, the previous court building was flooded and many of the paper case files were damaged or destroyed? This led to significant delays and, in some instances, dismissal of important cases. Justice that was not served simply because digitization was not a priority back then. And we would have think we learned our lesson. But how many years has it been since Hurricane Maria? Over 7 years, and still the digitization of our files and processes is not complete. Clearly, it is not enough of a priority. A half-baked approach will simply not do. We need to partner with tech firms and universities to develop legal tech solutions, provide mandatory digital literacy training for judges, lawyers, clerks, and investigating officers, and pass legislation making digital transformation a national priority. Competent opponents, this reform is a must. My fourth and final point is that Dominica suffers from severe understaffing and incompetence in the judiciary. It is true that we need more judges, trained mediators, and more clerks so that the workload is not so overwhelming. However, in an article on DNO from December 2023, His Lordship Justin Colin Williams minced no words in calling out the sluggish incompetence and lack of punctuality of Dominica's magistrates. He lamented, and I quote, "You cannot have the magistrate court, which is supposed to start at 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock in the morning, and people standing outside for long periods waiting for the court to open. This is the first time in my career that an assize is closed without a single matter to be done. However, over 100 people were left on remand. There is no justification on the face of this earth why this should be happening in Dominica today. But unless we can call out those who are supposed to be doing their jobs but are not doing it, then we will not find a solution." End quote. The magistrate court is the first step in many legal proceedings. Magistrates must be held accountable, and sanctions need to be imposed and enforced. Competent opponents, this reform is a must. We cannot say that there is equal access to justice in Dominica when only the elite are privileged to experience timely administration of justice, and the majority are affected by unconstitutional delays. Competent opponents, we stand for equal access to justice. This is why we are in full support of significant reforms. Remember, justice delayed is justice denied. Thank you.
Very much, Mr. Jazz Maxwell. Just spoke for 9 minutes and 10 seconds. I'd also like to just remind everyone here that I forgot to mention in terms of the timing, we do have a timekeeper, all right? And the timekeeper's responsibility is to alert the debaters when they have 3 minutes left. So debaters, just to remind you that in your deliberations, just keep an eye out for the timekeeper. So she will inform you when you have 3 minutes left, and then subsequently when you have only 1 minute left. Thank you. We now welcome to the podium the first speaker for the proposing, for the proposing team, Ms. Malia Etienne. For the opposing team, the first one secondary school, my apologies. Yes. Ms. Malia Etienne, welcome her to the podium. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, imagine a courtroom, not as a place of shadows and doubts, but as a sanctuary of unwavering truth. Picture the blindfold, not as a symbol of ignorance, but as a shield against bias, a testament to impartiality. And envision the scale, not as a fragile instrument swayed by whims, but as a steadfast measure of equity. Where the blindfold is worn and the scale is true, justice reigns. This isn't a mere platitude, it's the very essence of Dominica's judicial system, a system often misunderstood but fundamentally sound. While the opponents may attempt to paint a picture of dysfunction and inequality, we stand here today to illuminate a different reality. We assert that our courts are functional and accessible, that our laws provide adequate equal protection, and that judicial independence is not a mere aspiration, but a lived reality. Therefore, my partner and I remain steadfast in the belief that Dominica's judicial system does not require significant reform to ensure equal access to justice. Honorable judges, Madam Moderator, friends, and worthy opponents. To ensure clarity in our arguments, let us define the key terms of this debate. According to DCAF, the judicial system refers to the system of courts that pass judgment on whether a person or legal entity has broken the law and oppose appropriate punishments. The system is the cornerstone of any democratic society, providing the mechanisms by which laws are interpreted, rights are protected, and justice is given. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines reform as putting an end to something by enforcing or introducing a better method or course of action. The National Center for Access to Justice emphasizes that equal access to justice will provide individuals the right to seek and obtain a fair legal hearing regardless of their socio-economic status, race, gender, or any other characteristic. The government of Dominica's 2022 Voluntary National Review reports that the nation's judicial system is based on the core principles of impartiality, fairness, and equality before the law. These principles ensure that everyone has the same access to justice, regardless of their status or even political affiliations. My opponents may be searching for isolated instances of inequality within our judicial system. However, I confidently assert that there are no systemic or widespread incidents that warrant such a radical reform. Our established structure is fundamentally designed to uphold the principles of equal and fair justice, and it demonstratively does so. In addition, the judicial system in Dominica is organized by different levels of courts that are responsible for hearing different types of cases. In 2015, Dominica decided to adopt the Caribbean Court of Justice, CCJ, as its final court of appeal. The mission of the CCJ is to provide accessible, fair, and efficient justice to the people and states of the Caribbean. Unlike the former practices of the Privy Council, the CCJ allows cases of ordinary citizens and is also more affordable. In an article on Dominican News Online, dated March 6, 2015, Prime Minister Skerrit stated that the Caribbean Court of Justice will allow more citizens to gain access to all levels of the judiciary system in the region. This move will continue to strengthen access to justice. Therefore, to suggest that the judicial system needs to be significantly reformed is a sign of disregarding these established principles of law. There are no significant breakdowns in justice that would justify a major overhaul. Honorable judges, we are reminded by Joseph Lowery, a civil rights leader in the 1950s, that if we do not know where we came from, it is difficult to know where we are, and even more difficult to plan where we are going. The existing laws of Dominica provide adequate protection for all its citizens. Dominica's constitution and court system aim at creating equal justice for all. The judicial system assists with dispute resolutions, protection of rights, and upholding the rule of law. The system protects vulnerable groups. In 2023, Dominica recognized the need for more robust protection for its citizens. Parliament passed the new Domestic Violence Act, number 14 of 2023. This new legislation enabled police officers to make arrests without warrants in case of domestic violence incidents to prevent further harm to the vulnerable. Children are in no way left behind in Dominica. In recent years, the country has enacted legislation to protect children's rights and welfare. In April of 2023, 4 other family-related bills were passed, including 1. The Equal Status of Children Act, 2. Maintenance of Children Act, 3. Maintenance of Spouses and Parents Act, and 4. Care and Adoption Act. At a press conference on July 18, 2022, the Director for Prosecutions, Shirley Dalrymple, stated that Dominica has one of the most stringent and comprehensive sexual offences acts. She also affirmed that the act is not discriminatory or gender-based bias. Evidence of this statement was seen on Dominican News Online in an article dated January 13, 2023, when a young man was sentenced to 11 years in prison for the robbery of a minor. Indeed, the law mirrors the system's commitments to protecting vulnerable groups in our society. It is therefore safe to echo that the judicial system provides equal access to all groups. My fellow citizens, the judicial system in Dominica has maintained its independence. Dominica's constitution establishes the judiciary as an independent branch of government, separated from the executive and legislative branches. It operates independently from political influence, ensuring impartial rulings. My worthy opponents, reform efforts will introduce unnecessary interference that compromises this joy of independence. This level of independence maintains the public trust in upholding the rule of law. This independent ruling is evidenced in a recent article on Dominican News Online, dated March 14, 2025. The Director of Public Prosecutions, DPP, filed an appeal against a High Court ruling of 3 defendants, Thompson Fontaine, Lennox Linton, and Edison James. The appeal challenges the decision made by Justice Colin Williams on February 28, 2025, which declared that the defendant's constitutional rights to a fair trial within reasonable time had been violated. Such appeals demonstrate that each party has the right to equal access to justice, and that the judiciary remains independent, free from political affiliations. Madam Moderator, the world recognizes our exemplary justice system. In 2024, Dominica ranked 53 out of 142 countries in the World Justice Program, and 11 out of 32 in Latin America and the Caribbean. This data is a reflection of the country's adherence to the rule of law and equal accessible justice. Ladies and gentlemen, while it is easy to advocate for improvements when faced with challenges mainly linked to the mishandling of the system, a call for reform may be misplaced. The judicial system, with its strong core principles, does not require drastic change to ensure equal access to justice. The current system provides adequate protection for every citizen and maintains its independence. My dear friends, after reviewing these facts, my colleague and I remain resolute in the belief that Dominica's judicial system does not require significant reform to ensure equal access to justice. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Malia Etienne of the Boston Secondary School. Malia is up for 10 minutes and 1 second. We now call on the second speaker of the ORION Academy, the proposing team. We now ask Ms. Malia Fontaine to come to the podium.
Distinguished judges, Madam Moderator, ladies and gentlemen of the audience and media, and my competent opponents, good afternoon and welcome. My team and I stand firmly in support of the motion that Dominica's judicial system requires significant reform to ensure equal access to justice. Imagine standing at the courthouse doors, knowing that justice is just within your reach, but only if you can afford it. For those of us who don't have the luxury of throwing money at the system, justice isn't a right, it's a privilege. A privilege locked behind a paywall and buried under an overwhelmed system that leaves the most vulnerable to fend for themselves. This is the harsh reality of Dominica's judicial system. My eloquent teammate has already highlighted 4 areas where there are major barriers to equity and justice that demand urgent reform. I will focus on 3 additional points. First, legal aid is overwhelmed and is not always affordable. Second, accessibility is a nightmare. And third, decentralization is overdue. First, let's focus on the challenges faced by the Legal Aid Department. According to the official website of the Ministry of National Security and Legal Affairs, the Legal Aid Clinic was established to provide legal service to low-income residents of Dominica at fees related principally to the ability of the individual to pay. This begs the question, what about individuals with no ability to pay? What happens to them? Competent opponents, in these challenging economic times, any additional financial burden placed on low-income or no-income individuals becomes unbearable. This makes it harder to access the legal support they desperately need. And to make matters worse, the system is overwhelmed. The Legal Aid Clinic employs only 4 attorneys to serve the entire country. 4. This leads to overwork, delays, and a complete lack of proper legal support for those who need it most. Now, while it is true that you have the right to represent yourself, it is not recommended. In an interview conducted at the High Court, her ladyship, Justice Zinab Jawabalami, stated that while she admires the bravery of those who choose to exercise this right, when an ordinary citizen or layperson attempts to represent themselves, it is challenging not only for them, but also the court. She stated, and I quote, "Everything slows down because of them. And as a judge, you must carry them along. So if they don't understand, you have to guide them, show them what to do, or refer them to someone to help with the filing of their documents, and so on." End of quote. At the time of our interview, she could only recall 1 case where a layperson won against a trained lawyer. Keep in mind that her ladyship has overseen hundreds of cases. A Sun News article from 2015 gave a perfect example. The article stated, and I quote, "There was one matter where a man was charged with burglary and was asked to plead one way or another, completely lost and out of his depth. And looking around for whatever help was forthcoming, he blurted out, 'Guilty?' Did he understand the consequences? Of course not. When people are forced into situations like this, it is a violation of their fundamental rights. The solution? We need to eliminate hidden cost, ensuring that those who need legal aid aren't further burdened. We must also hire more legal aid attorneys. 4 attorneys for the entire country is unacceptable. Competent opponents. This reform is a must. Secondly, accessibility is a nightmare. For people with disabilities or those living in rural areas, getting to court is like asking a fish to climb a tree. Honorable judges, we applaud the authorities for making the new High Court building accessible through wheelchair ramps and elevators. But it breaks our heart that in 2025, this does not apply to all of our courts. The Wesley Magistrate Court, top floor, no wheelchair access. The St. Joseph Magistrate Court, top floor, no wheelchair access. Shame, shame, shame. Competent opponents, equal access to justice. Our people don't even have equal access to the building. Now, while it is true that since COVID, virtual court sessions have been a game changer for people with mobility challenges, these hearings require stable internet and access to devices. And if you live in a rural area, good luck even getting a signal. And let's not forget about the hearing impaired. Madam Moderator, my team and I were appalled to learn that there are no sign language interpreters working with the High Court in Dominica. 0, none at all. Her ladyship stated, and I quote, "I know for a fact we have a matter where the defendant is deaf and the matter cannot proceed because there is no interpreter." End of quote. Honestly, this is heartbreaking. Competent opponents, is this what you call equal access to justice? The way our justice system treats the mentally ill is also an area for concern. In an article on DNA from December 2023, His Lordship Justice Colin Williams stated, and I quote, "There is no reason why 40-something people who are mentally challenged are supposed to be at the state prison. Sick people don't belong in a prison. But we sit and say, that is the way it is. clearly the disadvantaged don't have equal access to justice. The solution? Every court must be fully accessible. That means wheelchair ramps, elevators, and sign language interpreters. And we must strengthen the laws and reevaluate the procedures that protect mentally ill defendants, ensuring they receive appropriate legal representation and medical evaluations before trial. Competent opponents. This reform is a must. Finally, the High Court must be decentralized. Right now, only one High Court is serving the entire country, and there are thousands of cases. For people in rural areas, that means traveling for hours just to get a hearing. And oftentimes, when they finally get there, court has been rescheduled. And sadly, this frustrating cycle goes on for months, even years. That is constant expense and time being wasted. The solution? We must decentralize the High Court. Regional High Court branches would improve efficiency, reduce backlogs, and make justice accessible to all. Competent opponents. This reform is a must. In the words of Martin Luther King Jr., injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Madam Moderator, a justice system that excludes the poor, the disabled, and the disadvantaged is broken. That is why we agree. As a matter of fact, we demand significant reform in order for all people in Dominica to finally have equal access to justice. I thank you.
I like the enthusiasm. All right, so that was the second speaker for the proposing team, Ms. Madlia Fontaine. She had 7 minutes during which to deliver her submission, and she did so in 7 minutes and 23 seconds. Thank you very much, Ms. Fontaine. Second speaker of the opposing team, as the Portland secondary team, is Ms. Roxanne Andrew, and we welcome her to the podium. Just a small correction, it's Roxanne Andrew, not Andrew. My apologies, Ms. Andrew.
Freedom ain't getting no closer. No matter how much I try, I got locked up, they won't let me out. They won't let me out, no. These aren't the words of a Dominican lamenting our system. They are the cries of Akon, an American artist vocalizing his own prolonged experience within the American legal system. Judges, esteemed moderator, ladies and gentlemen, can you feel the weight of those words? Can you relate to the frustration? I urge you to carry that feeling with you as we delve into the heart of today's debate. We are not here to deny that Dominica's judicial system can benefit from improvements. Of course it can. The question is, does it necessitate a radical overhaul? We stand firm in our conviction that the answer is a resounding no. Because as Akon's experience accentuates, judicial delays are not unique to Dominica. Political influence threatens impartiality, and costs spiral out of control. Madam Moderator, a core argument against the moot is that delays are a global malady, not a unique Dominican affliction. As the International Organization for Judicial Training Journal 2020 elucidates, and I quote, delays are a global concern, stemming from factors such as increased caseloads and the complexity of modern litigation, end of quote. Clinton versus Jones is one of many delayed legal proceedings in developed nations. Although the Supreme Court ruled in 1997, its repercussions extended into the early 2000s. The civil lawsuit against then-President Bill Clinton caused significant delays, ultimately leading to the Lewinsky scandal and his impeachment, further disrupting government proceedings into the next decade. Given these challenges, can we truly believe that Dominica is immune to the universal pressures affecting judicial systems worldwide? Moreover, the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court's annual report, of which Dominica is a part, acknowledges existence of delays in the judicial system due to backlogs, yet do not justify a call for drastic reform. Fellow rivals, is it prudent to dismantle a functioning system over a challenge that plagues even the most advanced judicial bodies? If we truly share the common goal of strengthening our island's justice system, then surely the focus should be on improvement, not unnecessary upheaval. The insinuation of political manipulation within Dominica's judiciary is another factor which warrants careful consideration. While the protection of judicial independence is paramount, we must acknowledge the inherent risks associated with substantial reform. Reorganizing judicial structures or altering appointment processes could inadvertently create fertile ground for political interference. For instance, Barbados' CCJ adoption was preceded by intense political debate, and regionally, similar discourse has slowed the court's full implementation. This highlights the fact that political positioning has influenced the pace of judicial reform in the Caribbean. Therefore, is it not more prudent to fortify existing safeguards? The Dominica Bar Association, a vigilant guardian of judicial independence, acts as a vital counterbalance to any potential undue influence. Instead of embarking on a path of uncertain reform, wouldn't we be better off empowering and supporting existing mechanisms that ensure impartiality? No. Let us examine the fiscal realities of significant reform. Such an undertaking would inevitably impose a substantial financial burden on Dominica. As the UNDP's Pace Justice program emphasizes, and I quote, "Justice reform requires careful planning and dialogue," end of quote, highlighting the complexity and cost of such endeavors. Ladies and gentlemen, to grasp the stark reality and substantial financial implications for our island's economy, let us consider the experience of Europe. According to the World Bank, between 1990 and 2001, that region invested over $10.8 billion in legal and judicial reforms. In a developing nation with finite resources, such costs must be weighed against other pressing needs. For Dominica, an extensive financial commitment of this magnitude would impose a considerable strain on government expenses. Unlike European nations, which can access external funding from bodies like the European Union and World Bank, Dominica lacks comparable financial and technical support. Consequently, implementing large-scale judicial reforms without the necessary budget could lead to an overburdened system, inefficiencies, and incomplete reforms that fail to achieve their objectives. Are we prepared to divert funds from vital sectors such as healthcare, education, and infrastructure to finance a potentially disruptive and unpredictable reform process? Let us not be swayed by the illusion that drastic reform is the path forward. The reality is clear. Judicial delays are a global issue, not a uniquely Dominican one. Political influence is inherent in all systems, not just ours, and the financial burden of sweeping reform is one our small island simply cannot afford. To dismantle what exists in pursuit of an uncertain ideal is not progress, it is recklessness. Instead of plunging headfirst into an expensive and disruptive overhaul, let us strengthen what we already have. Let us invest wisely in technology, judicial staffing, and case management, solutions that are both practical and proven. Let us fortify our safeguards against political interference rather than creating new vulnerabilities. Fellow Dominicans, the call for radical change is a gamble with stakes too high. The choice before us is not between reform and stagnation. It is between chaos and strategic progress. Let us choose wisdom over impulse, refinement over destruction, and sustainability over upheaval. The verdict is clear. Dominica does not need a radical overhaul. It needs smart, measured, and effective solutions. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Roxanne Andre of the Portsmouth Secondary School. Roxanne spoke in 7 minutes and 44 seconds. All right, and just to let you know, the students are allowed 1 minute overtime. Once they're within that minute, it's okay, as long as if they go above the additional 1 minute, then the judges have the discretion of deducting points. Okay, so this concludes what we refer to as the prepared segment of the debate. The debaters will now have some time to prepare for the rebuttal. The time allotted for the preparation of rebuttal is 5 minutes, and I know Ms. Christian normally gives a little extra time, but it's not really considered extra, but we use that time to just let you know about our sponsors. And just excuse me 1 second, I think I forgot my sponsor. So debaters, you have some, you'll actually buy you some extra time. After I announce the sponsors, then I will ask the timekeeper to officially start the clock on your 5 minutes of preparation. So today we are thrilled to announce our sponsors who are making this proceeding possible. We begin with our top sponsor. I believe that is the Josephine Gabriel and Company Limited, who have been with us throughout the competition. We also have other sponsors such as the National Bank of Dominica, the Republic Bank, Chase Bookstore Limited, the Wasco, DBS Radio, Q95 FM Radio, Domlec, Morrow and Company Limited, National Cooperative Credit Union, the Fort Young Hotel, HHB Whitchurch and Company Limited, Lindumart, Insurance Company of the West Indies, Fine Fruits Inc., KFC. We also have as sponsors Ms. Catherine Abraham, Dr. Joshua Lloyd and Mrs. Carinthia Lloyd, Civic Vibes, Maysil Pascal and Grace Foundation, Janine Christian, and Freeman Consulting LLC. Added to that list, I believe maybe for the first time, we have Dr. Sharna Kazimi, and Dr. Kazimi is awarding a special prize for the best rebuttal here today. So we thank you, Dr. Kazimi, as well as all of our sponsors just mentioned. We also have some very lovely partners who have joined with our sponsors in order to make the proceedings possible, and we just want to mention them. We have the Dominica State College Literary and Debating Society, University of the West Indies Global Campus, Ministry of Education, HR Planning, Vocational Training and National Excellence, Finance Focus, and the Watering Can. And so we'd just like to give a round of applause to our sponsors and our partners. Thank you very much for your generous contribution to this inter-secondary school debating competition. All right, now I will take my seat and we'll begin the official countdown for the 5 minutes rebuttal preparation. During that time, I'll ask that all cell phones be either turned off, I'm not looking at anybody in particular, or be put on silent. If you have any alarms as well, sometimes you have an alarm set, it will come on even if your phone is on silent. So I'm just going to check your alarms and turn them off. And please respect the time of the debaters, give them the quiet time that they need to mentally prepare for the rebuttal. Thank you very much. So officially, 5 minutes have expired. However, the debaters will have an unofficial couple minutes to prepare as well. While I just give you an indication of what the judging criteria looks at in terms of the prepared speech as opposed to the rebuttals. So for the prepared presentation, what the judges were looking at, the criteria, in fact, was soundness of points, logical development, audibility and clarity, posture and personality, command of the material, and for each criteria there's a maximum point, and I believe the maximum or the total team points for this prepared presentation is 100. Okay, so these are the criteria that the judges usually look at. For the rebuttal, where the preparation is different, the judges are looking at team coordination, meaning during the 5 minutes that they were preparing, how they were interacting with each other in terms of their rebuttal preparation. And in terms of the rebuttal itself, the judges will be assessing the speaker's general analysis of the debate and recalling of points of the opposing side, as well as the ability to refute those points, and as well as spontaneity. Remember I said that the rebuttal part is really the debating part, where the debaters are not really relying on a prepared speech, but are just using the points that were made during the debate to refute or to recall, and so the idea of spontaneity is one of the main features of the rebuttal. Okay, with that said, we would like to call, and the rebuttals are delivered by the first speaker for each team. We will have our first speaker from the proposing team, which is the ORION Academy. And just a reminder for anybody who's now tuning in with us, the topic or the debate topic for today is Dominica's judicial system requires significant reform to ensure equal access to justice. We will now call on the first speaker from the ORION Academy, Mr. Jazz Maxwell, to deliver the rebuttal on behalf of his team. I'm just reminded by our assistant missionary Drival to just remind you that the rebuttal will be delivered in 3 minutes. So the speaker has 3 minutes during which to deliver his rebuttal. So you have right, Charles? Okay.
Good afternoon to all once again. Honorable judges, I am in utter disbelief of my opponent's standard of what they consider to be equal access to justice will be so low. My teammate and I used irrefutable evidence to prove that Dominica's justice system is in dire need of significant reform. In their attempt to oppose this, my opponent stated that the current system provides adequate access to all. However, how can you say that the system provides adequate access when you cannot even access the magistrate court, as my teammate so lovely put in her speech? My opponents also stated that international countries have significant delays as well. However, because someone else is doing something, you cannot use it to justify a reason that it is right. If you take yourself, for example, if you are doing badly in a class that everyone is doing badly in, would you continue to do badly, or would you better and improve yourself instead of staying and doing badly? So we cannot follow in the footsteps of international countries. We need to better ourselves and change our way of thinking to ensure that our judicial system is reformed and used in proper ways. Another point my opponents made is that the judicial system does not require significant reform. It is best to use improvements, minor improvements. However, if you have a shirt that is filled with 1,000 holes, would you take your time and mend every single one of those holes, or would you just buy a completely new shirt? It is as simple as that. You cannot spend time mending a false news when you can just simply change it entirely. Honorable judges, my team and I have proven beyond the shadow of a doubt that Dominica's judicial system does not allow equal access to justice for all. It is in desperate need of reform. No further evidence is needed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jazz Maxwell. Jazz spoke for 2 minutes and 13 seconds. We'll now call on the first speaker from the opposing team, Ms. Malia Etienne, to deliver the rebuttal on behalf of the team.
Good afternoon once again. While my opponents have passionately argued their case, passion does not equate to the truth. I rise to expose the flaws in their reasoning and prove that their claims provide no grounds to justify significant reform. Firstly, our opponents mention the proverb, justice delayed is justice denied. To that we say, justice hurried is justice buried. Time is essential in allowing a fair trial. As my teammate stated, the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court's annual report acknowledges the existence of delays, but does not justify a call for drastic reform. Worthy opponents, you mentioned the issue of accessibility within our judicial system, highlighting the need for wheelchair ramps and sign language interpreters. Ladies and gentlemen, look at Dominica. While these inclusions will surely be an advantage, our country simply lacks the funds to incorporate these solutions. Even with the push for reform, we must be practical. Just take into consideration the many completed healthcare facilities that are empty. Do you really think that Dominica can successfully take on projects to add structural changes all over the island? Dominica's judicial system is functional. Our laws already provide equal access to protection, and judicial independence remains intact. Additionally, calls for reform ignores the fact that judicial delays are a global issue. Political influence taints every judicial system, and the cost of change is high. What isn't broken does not need to be fixed. The call for radical reform remains unwarranted. If we truly want to improve our system, the focus should be placed on increased judicial staffing and better case management. Effective solutions that will make a difference. I thank you.
Okay, so we thank Ms. Malia Etienne. Malia spoke in 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Okay, so this concludes the debating segment of the competition. Debaters, I'm sure you can all relax now. Yes, all the butterflies are gone. And so we will ask, we now look to our judges. Their real work, I mean, they've been working from the moment the debate began, but their real work begins now. I would not like to be a judge today. We ask the judge's assistant, Missionary Driver, to accompany them to the deliberation room. And now we ask our debaters from both teams, you can rejoin your classmates up in the audience. And when the judge is returned, I will call you back to your debating tables. During this segment of the debate, as I said, we normally engage as an audience, as a group of people, students, teachers, parents, people who access or have use for the judicial system. I'm sure we have our own opinion on the topic. During this time, we will not be judging the debaters, we will not be commenting on their performance, we leave that to the judges and their critique, but we would like to dissect the topic a bit, all right? And I would really love to hear, especially as I said, as somebody operating within the system, I don't want to say too much. I want to hear from you, the audience, okay? So I will begin with my first question. How many of you here have had, and I'm trying to pry into your business, how many of you here have had a reason on occasion to access our courts, any one of them, magistrates court, high court, registry, or if not you, somebody that you know of, somebody close to you, anybody? I see hamsters. Now, it doesn't mean because you access the judicial system or the court system that you are somehow involved. People always think that it means that I am involved in some kind of criminal activity. There are many reasons for accessing our court system, and it's not always to do with crime or anything criminal. There are other services that are offered or provided within the court system. So it could be going to get a paper or going to get a certificate or anything. Nobody? Yes, Christian? Okay, you? Ariana? Okay, so, all right, so now, can you, based on the topic, would you agree or disagree based on the experience that either you had or somebody close to you has related to you? Would you agree or disagree with the topic that based on that experience, we really need some reform in Dominica? Oh no, the service, the court system, I went there, everything looked fine.
I must say, I would agree that we need some reform, not because
I
of my association with ORION Academy, but my experience with my friend, it was long. They would give court dates, then change it, then come back, give it again, then they may go to the court, someone's not there, they have to move it again. Even just gets into the court because she doesn't live in Roseau. So all of these factors were stressful for her, and it was a situation where someone was harassing her. And that was an urgent case, but it was served with no urgency, really, actually.
As we speak today, has that case been resolved? Was there any kind of resolution to it?
It has not been resolved.
Anybody else wants to share some experience that they had within the judicial system, either trying to access the services or through the courts, or somebody that you know of, and somebody disagreed with that? No, I've had a matter dealt with, and it was dealt with very promptly. Well, this is not looking very good for us. It's not looking very good. And I must say, in my 17 years, 16 to 17 years practice, I must say, if you look at it, they say it's a skill, right? But it's really not weighing heavily in favor of the officers. You know, we get backlash all the time, and we heard the critiques. So what I like is that we did some of the ways in which we believe the matter can be resolved. So, but before I ask you, what do you think things can be resolved or things can be reformed? Let's hear Miss Faisal tells me.
I just wanted to share that the reason that this topic came up in the first place is because I accessed the judicial system and I was appalled. I had to represent the Dominica State College in a matter that had been convened initially in 2019, and in 2025, when I went to court, I was just appalled at the process. Everybody was there, was called from 9 a.m. I believe it was, and everybody just had to sit and wait, and then I was just alarmed when at 1 p.m. I was told it's lunchtime and you will have to come back at 2 o'clock, and I had already spent from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. just sitting with everyone else waiting for this matter to be called. Nobody's given a specific time, you just have to, and the mood amongst the legal people there, the lawyers and so on, was that is how it always is, and there was a sort of acceptance. And I, because it was the first time I was accessing a legal, or taking part in a legal matter, I was surprised, but everybody else was like, this is how it is. So it kind of brought to the fore that a conversation needs to be had about the judicial system and its efficiency. And I also noted when I was kind of thinking of the topic that I was seeing a lot of complaints on the local media sources about that same delay aspect that I just experienced. So I said, okay, it's meaningful enough for discussion. I see a lot of complaints, but I know in every issue there are two sides. So I was also aware that although I was appalled by the delays, that there may be a defense for this system and how it operates, and also the fact that the legal fraternity seem to be very accepting of, this is just how it is, and this is how it is all the time, like, didn't you know? And so I said, it was worth a debate. But I just wanted to precede the discussion, Ms. Seja, that the topic came about because of my experience in the courts. And I said when I left at 1 p.m., and by the way, I did not return at 2 p.m., I said I was never coming back to the court. So at least that was that gave a little impetus to me to never get involved in anything and bring me to the court, and hopefully it's done because the college does not allow me to have to go back to court on their behalf.
Okay, so the point that she's making is quite interesting, because yesterday I had the similar experience. Now, you may say, but you're in the system, you're part of the system. The thing is, I have been practicing court, okay? So I took a decision a few years ago as an attorney to try and stay away from contentious matters that require court. Because of this very reason. So, although you may say that it appears like the legal fraternity, we are a bit complacent, but I think after a while of fighting, because the Bar Association, they have made several recommendations, and some of them have been, the note has been taken of some of them. There have been some changes, but the changes are sometimes few and far in between. So yesterday I went to court at 9, thinking I would make it out at 10, because we simply went to adjourn the matter. The adjournment, for those who don't know, is just simply to ask the court to move the matter from this day to another day, because we had some little impediments based on the clients. And I left there after 1. So part of the reason is because we're still in the system is still a bit, I would say primitive. So I worked in ethics maybe for a long time, and one of the things that the courts they do in terms of managing the time that litigants spend in court is that they look at the status of your matter and they allot a certain amount of time for it, and so they will inform you to come to court at that particular time. So even if court starts at 9, your notice will say you come to court for 11. So it means you're not there from 9 until 11. When you come at 11, a half hour is allocated, and so that's probably a way that since I moved back to Dominica, the point has been made. I have not seen it implemented. Everybody does not need to be there at 9 o'clock. It's like going to a doctor's appointment. The doctor gives everybody like the 10, 5, but then all of us are in the waiting room, but we wait for hours, okay? Whereas you could probably give them more, a time that makes a bit more sense, all right? So I do take the point. It happened to me just yesterday, and I was very frustrated because I hadn't been in court for easily a couple of years. I hadn't been in the court, so I forgot that is what it was like, where you were waiting and waiting. At one point we were waiting, and then sorry to say, but the judge said we were on a break. And so, and I mean, that is the judge. The judge has that kind of discretion. She's human. She needs a break. So again, we had to move and come back. So I understand the frustrations where time delays are. We forgot time delays. So apart from the point I just made about scheduling matters on like a time, time blocks, are there any other suggestions or any other ways in which you, as young people, as not so young people, I'm not looking at anybody in particular again, that you can think of that the aspect of, because this is one of the major hurdles, the time delay. And like she said, I would call them defenses, but there are reasons for it. And some of them are justifiable reasons. For example, not many judges, although recently the number of judges was increased. We now have 3 judges. She's like, what's the clock? Very, very, very good deal to have 3 judges in one jurisdiction. Usually you have 1 high court judge per jurisdiction. But us, like in St. Lucia, because of the size of our population, we now have 3, and they have distinct roles. So one is the judge that deals with criminal matter, the other judge deals with civil matters, and we have a retired judge who came back to deal with caveat matters. So in terms of the time delay, any suggestions or any ways you think in which the system can be reformed, specifically to reduce those time gaps and this wasting of time in court. Yes.
I think that for future reference, we should try to encourage more lawyers and judges in schools, like try to encourage jobs and things like that. Personally, when I grew up, I would like to be a lawyer. And
You sure about that? Anyway, I can dissuade you?
sorry.
Anyway, I can dissuade you?
No.
Just joking.
Yes, so I would like to be a lawyer. I think it's a very interesting job to be in, and I think we should try to encourage it more in the youth. I think that will make things faster. Also, at a certain point of the debate, it was mentioned, Dominica was almost compared to an old shirt. I remember.
The ship animals,
I don't think that.
not Dominica, the judicial system.
Sorry.
Although, can
I don't think that the system should be compared to a shirt, especially when he said that it would be better to just replace the entire shirt with the new one. I don't think that is how it should be done. I think it would be better to fix it one step at a time, as it would cause less strain on the system to just fix it one step at a time than to do it all at once. I think it would cause less strain. Easy.
So you agree with the point that there shouldn't, although there should be some changes, it should not be like a drastic overhaul of the system, especially in light of the economic factor. Because to make any kind of reform requires money, requires a budget. So you say we should just build on what we have and take it from there as opposed to just an entire reform of the system. Okay. And you mentioned in terms of the delays. So are you saying that we need more lawyers in Dominica to curb the delay issue?
Yes.
Because the point was made that that the lawyers themselves are a big factor in the delay issue. So it isn't just that point. Yes, we get more lawyers to help deal with more cases, but what of the integrity of the lawyers and so on? How do you think the state can deal with that? Or you or anybody, doesn't have to be you, anybody can answer. Because somebody mentioned that, I think the question was, how can the state govern lawyers? So what do you think is an effective way that the state can ensure that lawyers do not continue, those of us who are guilty, I'm not one of them, but those who are guilty, can help to improve the system as opposed to being a cause of the nuances in the system? What do you think government or the state itself can do? Anybody can respond. I'm not directing to her in particular. This I see we have a mic. The mic is moving. It's interesting. We do have something that is in the pipeline, but that is concerned, but it's been in the pipeline for a while. So that's what you're going to see.
No, I'm just going to address what the Bar Association has already said. They stated that, this Bar Association represents lawyers, and yet they are pleading for stricter sanctions when it comes to absenteeism of defense counsel and just attorney negligence in general. So even they realize that this is a serious problem. The court is not just made up of the judges and magistrates. The lawyers play a key role. So when a lawyer is always petitioning for continuance, he always needs more time, let's reschedule this, then that pushes the case as well. It's not just the negligence of the court itself. That's definitely a very big factor. So many people in Dominica can attest to the fact that I had a matter, it was ongoing for 3 years, 4 years, and then my lawyer called me, and my lawyer told me 2 days this morning that I have to come this afternoon to court. It's the same song already, so definitely they do have a part to play as well.
Okay, and on that point, thank you for your comments. On that point, I don't know if anyone of you are aware that at present there is no Legal Profession Act in Dominica. Okay, so that's one of the ways I believe we can try to curtail those behaviors that we spoke of. Now, when I left Dominica in 2003, I see what judges are making it up, so I'll skip it up. We had a draft, I believe, of the Legal Profession Act that was over 14 years ago. And since then, a few jurisdictions have passed the Legal Profession Act, and us in Dominica, we are still waiting. I think the last time, sometime last year, we had some consultation. The Bar Association was reviewing the draft bill. So I'm hoping that within this year, before the year ends, that we will have the Legal Profession Act, because the Legal Profession Act is not just for the protection of litigants, it's also for the lawyers' protection. And that is one way in which the judicial system will greatly be improved, especially on the point that was made where lawyers are seen to be playing a vital role in causing delays and so on and so forth. So let us just hope that the act is passed sometime this year and it will greatly improve part of the services within the judicial system. The judges are ready? Okay, so we have 5 more minutes, all right? So let's hear your views on that, and whether you do believe passing a Legal Profession Act will actually help, or do you think it will just be like many of our other, some of the discussion hinged on not just the judicial system, but some of the statutes that we have, and the need for reform in statutory reform, in other words. So
I do think it can help, but with any type of legislation that is passed, you need to enforce it.
correct.
So we can have it in writing, we can have it there, but if there is nobody enforcing it, and if the problem is the legal system and enforcing laws in courts and managing courts, then I'm not sure how effective it may be, and it will also require people to know about it. I feel like a lot of Dominicans are not very knowledgeable about our laws and their rights as citizens. So I think that in itself allows lawyers and other legal professionals to get away with certain things, because people are not aware of their rights in general. So while I think it would be a great way to start, I think it would have to be something that's ongoing. Yeah. And then, in addition, previously you asked for suggestions to improve. I think another thing is that we have long paper trails. We have to go from police has papers, then the court has papers, and you have to go from building to building, and it's not digitized. Like, you kind of just pull up someone's file on a laptop and have all the documents together. The person, well, depending on the matter, of course. But oftentimes when people have to go, they have to go in the police department get that, then they have to go by the magistrate to get another thing. Even within the building, they may have to go to different rooms to get different documents. So it is a lengthy process, and for some people, like let's think of the elderly, that's a lot. And if we're talking about accessibility to justice, that is one area we have to look at.
Okay, so you made 2 very interesting points, and the first point you made, you spoke to education or information, public information. And so I was going to ask the question: do you think public education can help as a form of reform in the system? And you made the point that yes, it can help because people are aware of how the system operates and is meant to function, and they can take the lawyers and the other officers to task. And that is also a very good point, because currently the ECSC, which is the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, which is really the body that is in charge of organizing the system, the court system within the OECS and the Dominica, we have a new Chief Justice, okay, who was appointed last year. Right? So we had a female Chief Justice for a number of years, and she retired. And so we have a new, and one of his mandates is public education. So those of you who are here, you can check out the ECSC website, just type in ECSC, and it should take you directly to the website. And you will see that the Chief Justice has been visiting, I think he has already completed visits to every single OECS island, has gone to the different colleges to speak to the students about the judicial system. He was actually at the State College, I think last year, September. He was at the State College. And so he really did a fine job in explaining to the students. I believe it should be extended now to the high schools. But he had, so that this is one way, and this is not something that was, it's not like a mandate, but I believe he is very passionate about education and people understanding and knowing their rights. So he has taken that up as one of his mandates as the new Chief Justice. So you can just check out the website, you will see all he has visited nearly every single college within the OECS region, and so hopefully that helps. Because then if the students are aware, they can then go home and talk to their parents. I mean, that's where the education aspect of it begins. But I like the point that people not knowing what to expect, and so a lawyer can tell you anything, right? A clerk can tell you anything if you're not aware of what the processes are. So definitely there is a great need in terms of reform. Public education, I believe, is one of the best ways that we can go about reforming the judicial system. And your second point, you talk about the excessive paper trail. Let me tell you about paper trail, all right? Because there's civil and there's criminal in terms of the judicial system. And in civil practice, I'm telling you, it's a lot of paperwork, filing papers back and forth. But on the point of having a centralized or digitized system, we do have now the e-litigation portal, which we didn't have before. So that's actually one reform that has been undertaken by the court system, where the only matters that are not filed on that system currently are titles, titles meaning application for titles for land, registration of land. But you can file any claim, any court claim through the e-litigation portal. And the thing is that because you're using the system if you type in your case number, once it's an active case, you are able to pull up all the documents for that case. The way the system works is that even if you're not a lawyer, you can go to the registry and they will assist you in filing your claim online. So it's a little bit better than before. I mean, there are some things that need to be improved. For example, even if we have the litigation portal, somebody spoke about access to technology for some people. So even if the court itself has gone online, is there equal access to, especially the common man, to be able to have a computer or laptop or something to be able to pull up the case, check on the status of the case and so on. So what are your views on that in terms of where the common man is unable, even if the system is now online, but they are unable themselves because they have no devices, or even in some cases they have no internet? Is there any way you think the state can assist in that way to bring greater access in terms of online and technology to, especially the common man, because most other people have access, but I'm talking about the real common man. When you tell them, but still you can go online and check the status of your case, you don't have to, even the lawyer tell you what, and they say, ma'am, I don't have a computer, or ma'am, they don't have a smartphone or something. So is there anything that you think can be done in that aspect to help create or bring more access? Yes. The shy?
He's very shy right now. I don't know why.
I don't know why.
What he was suggesting is to create a centralized location where people can have access. So as we said, not everyone has devices at home or even internet, or even in some places they don't have cell service, depending on where you live in the country. So if we have a central location or central locations, then people can at least know they can go there to access it. But I think that goes back to the other side's point about the finances and implementing those strategies. But I think it's a good idea. So.
Yes, I believe so too. And even in terms of, yes, we have somebody. Go ahead.
Several things about finances. I think we also need to save and maintain the country's money so that we can help the common man, as you say, to access it and things like that. Also something that Malia, my classmate, stated when she said about the sign language interpreters, I think we also need to help finance that as well. We need to figure out a way to hire more interpreters, but as she said, we don't really have the funds for that, so we need to find out how we can get or maintain our funds for that.
Okay, so you say, when you said I take it that you mean prioritize over the finances or the financial resources of the country. Because it may not be that we don't have it, but maybe we need to probably redirect funds, to the judicial system. But that's a very excellent point that was made about the use of interpreters in court. Okay, so currently, as the research showed, there are no sign language interpreters. We do have, sometimes in cases, they will call for language interpreters. So, we have in our communities very diverse right now. We have our Haitian brothers and sisters living with us. We have our Spanish brothers and sisters living with us. So I know that whenever you have a litigant or a witness or anybody in court who is not, English is not their first language, usually an interpreter will be called in to interpret. But a very good point about the sign language for the hearing impaired. But apart from the finances though, do we have persons within the system who can actually, I know, for example, the Convent High School, I'm not sure if any of the school has a sign language program, but and the students, I see them, they look very well advanced, but I'm not even sure in terms of what the requirement would be for a sign language court interpreter. I remember the debacle we had some years ago where some lady was interpreting sign language and was just, as we say, don't make a doing magic, right? And because a lot of people didn't understand sign language, they didn't realize what she was saying was not. So the question is really, how do we, so I know the Convent High School provides a bit of sign language education, but do we have persons within the community, within Dominica, who can offer that type of service? Are you all aware of, I'm aware of language interpreters, I'm not aware of a professional sign language interpreter or what the qualifications would be for that, but I think it's an excellent, we need it. It's something that is one of the reforms that we do need. I have a client who is hearing impaired. All right, I don't even know sign language, so maybe we can even extend it to part of the training for attorneys and for officers within the system. So excellent point. Well, just asked for 5 more minutes, but I'm feeling like it's 15 minutes passing. They said 5 more minutes, right? Okay, let's hope they get here very soon. Anybody else wants to make any kind of contribution to the discussion? So far, we've heard all the ways. I'm refusing to believe that there must be something you can say about the judicial system where we actually do not need a reform. Like it's perfect or it's very near perfect. There must be something. Come on, put your thinking caps on. I myself am trying to think. You know what I mean? We talk about reform, but is it that the system is 100% reform in every single area? I mean, okay, let's see. I think we have very, very well-educated and, for example, our judges. I mean, our judges are comparable to judges anywhere in the world. Okay, and for that I'm actually very proud, because it means that the jurisprudence, or what we call the legal education or information or interpretation, they're in very good hands, because we do have, oh yes. Are you really sorry? Yes, somebody want to say something? So the judges are here, but that is, yes.
I'll just say, it's not 100%, but in terms of what I'm made, if we have to measure it to the other countries in the Caribbean, sun and low.
Yeah.
Okay, and so a lot of people say they are functioning.
And you attribute that to the judicial system, that the crime rate is low. When I say attributing, it's because we have such a robust judicial system.
I'm saying nothing is perfect,
Right.
but it is working.
Is working.
We may need some improvement, but not necessarily a reform.
Okay, thank you very much. And we'll end on that note. I see our judges are back with us and they've handed me the score sheet. Before we even go into the points or deciding or saying who is the winner, I believe we're going to call on the Chief Judge, Mr. File Lander, to deliver the judge's critique. Okay, but before Mr. Lander addresses the audience, I would just like to call our debaters back to the debating table. Okay, and Mr. Jazz Maxwell, Orion Academy, the speaker, please come back to the table. Let's welcome him back. The speaker for the Compton Secondary School, Ms. Malia Etienne, let's welcome her back. The speaker, Ms. Roxanne Andre.
afternoon to those tuned in via the virtual means, I believe Emonews as well as Dominican News Online. And I want to say a special good afternoon to our proposing as well as our opposing debaters this afternoon, who I believe deserve an exceptional round of applause for a well put together debate on both fronts, I must say, as well, and it was agreed upon by my fellow judges. I also want to take this opportunity to applaud the fact that this afternoon we saw a mild improvement, and I use the word mild very loosely in terms of our rebuttal in this afternoon from this debate. And I know Dr. Joseph is excited about that because we have been lamenting since the start of the intersecondary school debate competition that our debating or rebuttal skills need to improve. So I just want to implore on our winning school moving forward that we need to only move forward from where we are and improve from where we are, because the schools on both sides did a reasonable enough job, but only one school will be awarded best rebuttal this afternoon, and I think we will see why. I want us to also recognize that debating is a skill, and very interesting enough, on my way here, I was looking at the parliamentary debate, and the Speaker of the House was actually making a very similar comment with regards to the sticking to your script. When you are in fact presenting a debate, you're utilizing points and supporting those points. So we want to ensure that even though you have a script, that you are not so heavily dependent on your script that if you deviate from the script for just a moment, that you get so lost that you become almost flustered. We didn't see that much this afternoon, but we want to be cautious about that moving forward when we are debating. Also, with debating, while we know what the topic is, we also need to understand what your approach to the topic is from the beginning of your debate. So first, speakers on both sides, I just want to caution and implore you that when you are in fact starting off your debate and preparing your debate, that you need to let us know what you're going to talk about so that it is easier for us to follow. Because one of the things that we are judging in on the side of the judges is in fact logical development. So logical development, to guide us as the judges, we need to understand what it is you are going to logically develop. But if it's not clearly stated at the beginning of the debate, it's going to be difficult for us to actually follow what it is that you are presenting. So let's be cautious about that and ensure that we are moving forward. We are improving from today moving forward. My next point I will indicate is that evidence is important. Just doing interviews is not sufficient. You need to have supporting evidence. And while the debate topic did require and did specify Dominica's judicial system, we must also recognize that they are in fact living in an international world. And this international evidence could have further supported today's debate, could have supported the points that we brought forward. Soundness of points, just listing points from start to finish is not enough. Your supporting evidence needs to be there to let us understand, yeah, that's a good point, but it's not just your mind. Evidence-based practice is what guides us, and I use this too because I am a nurse. Evidence-based practice is what we do every single day. If we don't have evidence to support what we are saying, we will be almost stuck to one side and be very polar. And my final point I would like to indicate is that, and this point is a bit, I would put, controversial, that we would say that in terms of your presentation skills, sometimes you don't necessarily have to always be so in your face when you are speaking, but then for some persons, and you also have to find an adequate balance, I would say, in terms of the spunk, in terms of the strength, in terms of the vigor in which you are speaking. Because again, while we are bringing out a point, we are also being professional in the way that we are presenting. So on both ends, you don't want to seem too timid, but you also don't want to seem too spunky, I would say. But I don't think that's a word, but is it Dr. Joseph? Okay. So I will say congratulations to the winning team moving forward, and to the team that does not move forward. You not winning today does not necessarily mean that you did a terrible job. It just means that there can only be one winner and one not winner. I don't want to call you a loser, because no one is a loser this afternoon. So all the best, and wishing both teams all the best moving forward.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lander, for the critique. And I will assume I was very well received. Very salient points made. All right, I know you guys are probably going to take me to task, but there's going to be a slight delay in giving the results, because we're going to thank our sponsors one more time before we leave. Okay, it's very important to be grateful. As they say, gratitude is a must, right? So today, we'd like to thank our main sponsor, Joseph Gabriel and Company Limited, as well as our other sponsors, National Bank of Dominica, Republic Bank, Jay's Bookstore Limited, the Wasco, DBS Radio, Q95 FM Radio, Domlec, Morrow and Company Limited, National Cooperative Credit Union Limited, the Fort Young Hotel, HHV Witchurch and Company Limited, Legal Mart, Insurance Company of the West Indies, Fine Foods Inc., KFC. We'd also like to thank Catherine Abraham, Dr. Joshua Lloyd, and Mrs. Carencia Lloyd, Civic Vibes, Maysil Pascal and Grace Foundation, Janine Christian, Freeman Consulting LLC, Finance Focus, The Watering Can, and Dr. Shana Kazimi, who is awarding a prize for Best Rebuttal. We'd also like to thank our partners here today: Dominica State College Literary and Debating Society, the University of the West Indies Global Campus, the Ministry of Education, HR Planning, Vocational Training and National Excellence, and I see one is crossed off. So these are our sponsors and our partners, and we just like to give them a big round of applause and to say thank you to them for participating. All right. And you guys are waiting with bated breath. I will announce first the Best Rebuttal award or winner. Okay, so the judges felt that the best rebuttal for today's debate goes to the first speaker of the opposing team, that is the opposition team. That is Malia Aiton of the First House of Person. Congratulations, Malia. We're just going to announce the winners, and then we will move into our prize giving segment. For Best Speaker, the judges have awarded that to Miss Madlia Fonte. Now, for the moment that we've all been waiting for, as we know, there is a total of grand total of 700 points that any of the teams could potentially accumulate. In terms of the judges' award of points, one team was awarded, or allotted I should say, 631 points, and another team was allotted 607 points. Okay? The team with 607 points is our opposition team, that is the Portsmouth Secondary School. We'd like to congratulate them, and that means that the winners of the semi-final of this congratulations to both schools. You guys did a wonderful job. You guys did a wonderful job. And we just want to thank you as well for accepting and embracing the challenge of taking part in the competition, because without the schools and without the teams, the competition would not be possible. So thank you very much. And we'll now move into the prize giving segment. I will call upon our main organizer for the debates, Ms. Trudy Christian, who will come and announce different winners.
Seja, and congratulations to the ORION Academy moving forward to the finals, and of course to the Portsmouth Secondary School, first time in the semi-finals, for a job well done. We distributed some prizes, and I have the pleasure of saying what those are. That's why I like to come to the podium for this time, because Ms. Seja, of course, called all the sponsors, so we'll let you know what the students are getting. Let's start with the prize for best rebuttal, and the person who was announced to have delivered the best rebuttal was Ms. Malia Etienne from the Portsmouth Secondary School. And she will be, you can come, Senator, yes. She will be awarded right now with a certificate, but her prize is sponsored by Dr. Shana, by Dr. Shana Kazumi, and she'll be getting an Amazon gift card so that she can purchase something. What parents, she can purchase something for winning that best rebuttal prize. So the gift card is to follow. And then we had the best speaker, who was announced to be Miss Malia Fountain. Miss Fountain will receive a cash prize as well as a prize from Shams Eats, Treats and Drinks. So you're missing a prize for her. Miss Drago, she has a box there on the table that she has to receive as the best speaker this afternoon. So her prize sponsored by Shams Eats, Treats and Drinks, and that is for best speaker. Congratulations. These are the special prizes. We now move on to awarding the school, the runner-up school, the Portsmouth Secondary School, for their participation here at the semi-finals. And each student can come up, Miss Malia Etienne, Miss Roxanne Andre, to receive their prizes. Each of our runners-up will receive a cash prize, as well as their trophy and their certificate. As well as a Bluetooth speaker from our sponsor, Freeman Consulting, LLC. Miss Andrew, you can come up. So we're runners up, and thank you so much. For your participation in this campaign. And our winners from the ORION Academy will be receiving their prizes at this time. I'll call up the first speaker first, Mr. Jazz Maxwell. Each student will receive a trophy, a gift certificate to Multiverse Games, as well as a speaker sponsored by Janine Christian for winning the semi-final debates, and Miss Malia Fountain for her prize. So winners, to relax before the finals, you can go to Multiverse Games and utilize that gift certificate and listen to some music on your speaker sponsored by Jenny Christian. Thank you so much. We always like to bid farewell to the coach who is no longer going to be with us in the competition, and we do acknowledge the hard work of our coaches. So I'd like to call up the lead coach from the Portsmouth Secondary School to receive gift certificate from Fresh Markets, and of course a gift alongside that. Thank you so much, our coach. We don't like to see our any school go, but we have to bid farewell at some point. And we also have some tokens for our judges for so ably assisting us this afternoon in this competition. I'll call first the Chief Judge, Mr. Firelander, to receive a token of our appreciation. Mr. Lander, thank you so much. Miss Jenny Jackson. And Dr. Kimon Joseph. Usually a moderator, this afternoon a judge. Dr. Joseph, thank you so much. And our moderator this afternoon, Miss Indira Seja. We also want to present you a token. Thank you so much for your work and for leading that discussion as a legal mind in the best way that you could. Thank you so much. And this concludes the first semi-final debate. This afternoon, the second one is immediately after this one. The judges are already in the room and I believe the students are outside. So thank you so much once again. Congratulations to the school proceeding to the finals, the Orion Academy, and to the Portsmouth Secondary School for making it to the semi-finals this year. First time in the competition, I congratulate you as well. Thank you so much.
This has been the Intersecondary Schools Debating Competition 2025. The first round of the semi-finals we had the Orion Academy and the Portsmouth Secondary School on the topic Dominica's judicial system reform is significant reform to ensure equal access to justice. Of course, the Orion Academy came in victorious today and will be back for the second round of the semi-finals today with the Dominica Grammar School and the PHL Secondary School on the topic AI-driven platforms should be heavily regulated to protect young people's cognitive ability, creativity, and privacy. We are having a many principal joining us, and remember we are back shortly for the second round of the semi-finals of the Inter-Secondary School